Time. The last 3 years were extremely challenging for all of us, and many things in our life changed and stopped to be normal. Let's take a moment, all of us, and think all these hard times that we've been through during this pandemic. Loss of our loved ones, distance from our families, and limited in doing many things we used to do. But as human beings, we are able to adapt to new circumstances and to overcome difficulties. For example, when we couldn't see our families, we adapted and we met them through our laptops. When we couldn't have fun indoors with friends, we adapted and we met them outdoors. Coffee farmers are no strangers to the challenging requirements of adapting in their everyday life. Some of the biggest challenges that they face are climate change and plant diseases, and they must find ways how to adapt into these situations in order to keep their production consistent and productive over the coming years. In July 2019 was my first visit to a farm that had adapted to the incoming challenges. At Cafe Granja La Esperanza in Colombia, I met a very passionate producer named Rigoberto Herrera, and together with his team, the last 10 years, they have been developing a new coffee hybrid named CGLE 17. And their goal was to create a hybrid that will adapt to the challenges of climate change and to plant diseases. And now, I will extract my signature drink doses in order to cool them down. And please open your booklet on the first page. CGLE is a pollination of Geisha melanther to Caturra female stigma. That means that we took the flower of the geisha and we bring it into contact with the flower of the Caturra. The DNA of the Caturra tree transformed by the character of the geisha. And then CGLE was born. A coffee with a round, juicy body and the resistance from the Caturra, along with the juicy acidity and the fruity flavors of the geisha. CGLE was created on three phases. First phase was a selection of the healthiest Caturra trees and planted them in Potosi farm. Second phase, 3 years later, when the tree was strong enough, they crossed it with geisha variety for more complexity and fruitiness. The last phase, when this hybrid was harvested, they planted it in one of the highest lots in Potosi farm at 1,900 meters. The high altitude helped the slow maturation of the cherries, created higher concentration of sugars and acids. This highlighted the sweetness, created a juicier body, and enhanced these fruity flavors like guava and pineapple. This is also what I really loved about this coffee and stood out for me in the cupping table, this fruitiness and the elegance with a velvety mouthfeel. Also, the reason of this hybrid was to create a coffee with high resistance to coffee rust and also to adapt during dry seasons, meaning that during hot periods when the leaf rust is more contagious, CGLE is more defensive and more productive in amount of cherries. So I believe that CGLE plays a significant role in the future of coffee industry. And now, let's start our session with espresso, and please turn to the next page. For your espressos, I create a recipe that will express the character of this hybrid to its fullest. So I ended up with 21 grams in to extract 42. In this way, I enhance these fruity flavors like guava and apricot that you will find in my cup. And now, please write down a few notes. You will get flavors of guava, pineapple, and apricot, with a medium weight, syrupy texture, and long lingering finish that reminds me of a fresh pineapple. Please evaluate only the crema and wait for my instructions. Please wait for my instructions. I want to enjoy it on 3 sips. But first, stir it 5 times and place the U spoon on the shot glass in front of you. Please, go ahead, enjoy it. Thank you. Okay, so now let's go a bit more in depth. April 2022 was time for my second and most critical visit to Cafe Granja. It was time for us to adapt and to face the challenge on how to lead the fermentation to the direction that we wanted and transform the flavor profile of this coffee. CGLE previously had that creamy mouthfeel and those beautiful yellow fruity notes, but we wanted to emerge and to highlight more of the fruitiness of both Caturra and Geisha variety. The first step was the selection of the sweetest cherries, preserving all the nutrients. Next, we place them in open tanks for 25 hours of whole cherry fermentation, converting those then nutrients like glucose and fructose from the fruit into the seed for more sweetness to your cup. This provides us flavors like guava and apricot with a juicy malic acidity. Also, the presence of oxygen during the fermentation gave us this sweet, clean tactile to your cup. Next, we mechanically dry the cherries by static dehydration at 30 degrees for 12 days. In this stage, we balance the juicy acidity and enhance the sweetness. And now, write down the flavor profile of your milk beverage. You will get flavors of apricot jam, butterscotch caramel with a creamy mouthfeel. The recipe that I'm using is 21 grams in to extract 32. Please enjoy it. Please enjoy it. Quite short and intense, but in this way, I extract more clear flavors like caramel and apricot and balance them perfectly on a total 90 ml drink. This milk is a freeze distilled food fat 4%, freeze it for 8 hours and then defrost it. And steaming it at 50 degrees, it gave me a sweeter and a creamier texture in my milk beverage. And combined with my espresso, the same apricot note that you have been lucky to taste on your espresso transformed to apricot jam. Furthermore, I roast this coffee 12 days ago with a development ratio 15%, paying attention to the development of the beans and caramelize those dense sugars into these beautiful fruity flavors with a unique taste balance. Enjoy. Okay, so now let's move on to my favorite part, and please turn to the next page. As you saw, CGLE is a cross hybrid. So for my signature, I have chosen two ingredients that each represents the cross varieties. My first ingredient, a lacto-fermented raspberry. Lacto-fermentation is occurred by putting a fruit with salt. Then salt breaks down the sugars and convert them into lactic acids. Also, these acids gives to the raspberry a round, smooth body with a lactic mouthfeel. I chose raspberries because they are fruity, because of their flavor and fruity natural acidity reminds me of the geisha variety that I tasted in La Esperanza. And it's the same that they are using for the cross hybrid. After 10 days of fermentation, I strained them and I added 5 grams of fructose to enhance the natural sweetness and to balance the acidity to my drink. And I'm using 22 grams. My second ingredient, an oolong milky tea extraction. Oolong tea has a stone fruit character with a round juice body that reminds me of the Catura variety that I taste in La Esperanza. And it's the same that they are using for the crossing hybrid. During the drying phase of the oolong, they put the leaves on the top of boiling milk jugs. The leaves absorb the steam of the milk, and this gives me a round juicy body with a stone fruit character. And when I combine it with my espresso, I highlight that apricot note from your espresso and milk beverage, and I recreate a new flavor, such as salted caramel with a buttery mouthfeel. All the recipes for my ingredients are there in your booklets. And of course, my two double shots, cooled in order to enhance that malic acidity that came from our fermentation. During that fermentation, oxen was present, and it gave us that clean tactile. So to replicate the oxen from the fermentation tank, I'm using this electrical stirrer to inject oxen to the drink. This will highlight the clean tactile and will integrate to a creamy texture, and also to homogenize all my ingredients. And now, please write down the flavor profile of your signature drink. You will get flavors of cherry, pomegranate, apricot, and salted caramel. With a buttery mouthfeel, creamy texture that reminds me of a whipped cream. When I will serve you, please don't drink it yet and wait for my instructions. Please wait for my instructions. In order to stimulate your sense of smell, I have prepared an aroma cloud of the flavors you will find in my drink. This will trigger your olfactory nerve to intensify and to perceive those red fruit notes like cherry and pomegranate of my drink. Now, I would like to take this taste tube into your hand. Please take this test tube into your hand. Let's do it all together. Do circular movements around your nose, close your eyes, and take a deep breath through your nose. Now open your eyes, please. Put down the test tube. Take the wine glass in your hand, swirl it 3 times, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Dear judges, CGLE are the initial letters of Cafe Granja La Esperanza. And La Esperanza means hope. So today, I served you hope. Hope for all of us and for all the coffee producers around the world. It was my pleasure. Time.